She is. But we don't ever give her the opportunity to have to figure out who we are. I always say, yes, but then, no. But it's hard, and Juan's trying to get his knee replaced. Yeah.
All right, we're going to get started, guys.
Can you hear it?
More than a couple.
Good morning. Welcome to the 150th consecutive Memorial Day service here at Kishwaukee Cemetery. Although it's uncertain times, we continue to have this wonderful occasion at the cemetery live. More than 1 million men and women have given their lives serving in our military during wartime, with thousands more dying in other conflicts. Many died long ago in some of the nation's and world's most well-known conflicts. Some died during operations few will ever hear about in history class. And unfortunately and inevitably, more will die serving our country honorably, battling terrorism, tyranny, and threats to the American way of life. None will be forgotten. Officially recognized as having been celebrated in upstate Waterloo in 1866, Memorial Day, then known as Decoration Day, was a community remembrance. When the first official Decoration Day ceremonies were held at Arlington National Cemetery in 1868, James A. Garfield, a future president and a Civil War combat veteran, told the thousands gathered, for love of country, they accepted death and thus resolved all doubts and made immortal their patriotism and our virtue. Please join in hearing the national anthem. During the early days of the Second Battle of Ypres, a young Canadian artillery officer, Lieutenant Alexis Helmer, was killed on May 2nd, 1915, in the gun positions near Ypres. He was serving in the same Canadian artillery unit as a friend of his, the Canadian military doctor and artillery commander, Major John McCrae. As the brigade doctor, John McCrae was asked to conduct the burial service for Alexis because the chaplain had been called away somewhere else on duty that evening. It is believed that later that evening, after the burial, John began the draft of what is now the famous poem, In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields the poppies grow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the lark still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard a bang, the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We live the dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved and were loved, and now we love. In Flanders fields, in Flanders fields. And now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up your quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break leg with us to die, we shall not sleep above this rock. In Flanders fields, in Flanders fields, we shall not sleep above this rock. In Flanders fields, in Flanders fields, Flanders.
Here we are again with Kishwaukee Cemetery. And this year will be different like the others, but we're very proud of our cemetery and we're glad that we can have a program like this. And we have the roll call of the dead every year. And so here we go. Revolutionary War, Ephraim Palmer. War of 1812, Horace Hoisington, Ryle Merrifield, William Southwick. Spanish-American War, Walter R. Burritt, 3rd Regular Cavalry. Civil War, there were 17 veterans here. William H. Harris, Company A, 33rd Illinois Infantry. James L. Hageman, Company A, 67th Illinois Infantry. Warren Sheffield, Company E, 52nd Illinois Infantry. Reuben Banks, Company E, 74th Illinois Infantry. Norman Clothier, Company E, 74th Illinois Infantry. William R. Craig, Company E, 74th Illinois Infantry. Myron H. Jarvis, Company E, 74th Illinois Infantry. John Lake, Company I, 52nd Illinois Infantry. George A. Pardee, Company K, 74th Illinois Infantry. William A. Rothwell, Company K, 74th Illinois Infantry. Charles N. Wilmarth, Company K, 74th Infantry. Lewis C. Clothier, Company K, 92nd Wisconsin Infantry. Merritt Hageman, Missouri Infantry. George R. Lawrence, Company K, 16th New York Heavy Artillery. John A. Scheidt, Company F, 73rd Ohio Infantry. And William C. Mullenix, who was a pastor at Kishwaukee Church at one time, Company A, 17th Wisconsin Infantry. World War I, there are 9 members. Lawrence Balky, Marine Corps. Clifford Condon, Army Company M, 2nd Regiment Engineers. Bernard L. Deneau, Navy, Machinist Mate, 2nd Class. George Golden, Company K, Company F, 117th Engineers. J. Clayton Hoisington Sr., Navy. Robert Holdridge, Army. William J. Lenstrom, Aero Squadron 355th. Clarence D. McCammon, Navy Seaman, 1st Class. Harold N. McCammon, Army Air Corps, 2nd Lieutenant. World War II, we have 23. Henry Brown, Navy. George Van Meerveld, Evans, Air Force. David Gordon, Army. Russell Hall, Air Force 39th Field Hospital. Alfred Hanna, Army. James C. Hoisington, Jr., Navy. Raymond Hoisington, Navy. Bertle E. Johnson, Army. Harry G. Johnson, Army Staff Sergeant, Europe Theater. Hilder Johnson, Women's Army Corps, only woman in Kishwaukee Cemetery. Vets. William C. Lippett, Navy. Robert McGee, Navy. Alvis Newsom, Army in the South Pacific. Reynold Peacock, Army Air Corps. Claude Prentice, Army 164th Infantry, South Pacific. Earl Seaton, Army 7th Armored Division. Mentrell Small, Army. W. Joseph Spraggins, Army. Leon Wright, Army. Walter Yankus, Army. Harry Russell, Army. Korean War, we have 6. Wesley H. Beatty, Army. Richard W. Balky, Army. Leonard Joyner, Army. Morris V. Milligan, Jr., Army. James E. Travis, Navy. Richard H. Wells, Army. Berlin Crisis, we had 1. John A. Russell, Army. Vietnam, we had 3. Ronnie O'Sullivan, Army. Ronnie H. Pope, Army. And Wayne Yankus, Navy, I believe 74.
The Civil War was fought in many places, from Big Bend and Bunker Hill, West Virginia, to Gothega Church, Georgia, from Pebbly Run and La Glorieta Pass and Gettysburg. On November 19th, Lincoln traveled to Gettysburg to dedicate the new Union Cemetery. The featured speaker was Edward Everett of Massachusetts, a diplomat, clergyman, and celebrated orator. The president was invited as almost an afterthought to offer a few appropriate remarks. Everett spoke for not quite 2 hours, then Lincoln rose. A local photographer took his time focusing. Presumably the president could be counted on to go for a while, but he just spoke 269 words. First, he reminded everyone that just 87 years had passed since the founding of the nation, and then he went on to embolden the Union cause with some of the most stirring words ever spoken. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives, and that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember that what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us. That from those honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from earth.
Christ was born across the sea, with our glory in His bosom, and transfigured to as He died to make men holy. Let us die to make
This concludes the 150th consecutive Memorial Day service here at Kishwaukee Cemetery. Thank you for those who have joined online and also here in person. Thank you, and please come again next year.